It's time now for the Gem Young Wealthcast, brought to you by Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, a family-owned independent insurance and financial planning agency since 1947. Now, from their studio on Star Center Drive in Canfield, Ohio, here's the host of your program, Leo Daprile.
Welcome to the Gem Young Wealthcast. This is Leo Daprile. Well, this is our continuing series where we sit down one-on-one with our clients and we talk about what their life's been like. We talk about how their work optional lifestyle's going. We talk about real things about what really happens as our clients are leading up to retirement, retiring, working when they don't have to work. So we wanted to give you some practical and real-world insights on what really happens to our clients in our financial planning practice. So I'm bringing back some folks I had last year because I want you to have an update a year later and see some of the things. So we wanted to have Randy Reese back because Randy's a retired nurse. I'll let him give you more on his detail in a minute. But when we did the show last year, he was someone that recently left the workforce, and it was a very impactful time for him. And he was still in the process of adjustment, which for many of you, you go through this. And we got significant feedback from that podcast last year. So we thought for most of you that were listening to that last year want to see what's happened to Randy in the last year, and let's see what's going on with him and his wife. So let's get right to it this morning. So Randy, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. So how you been?
I've been doing good.
Yeah.
Real
So tell us a little bit about what your last years looked like.
Well, now that all the money that has been put away and all my federal retirements and everything's got back into place and we're getting steady money coming in, it's very relaxing knowing that that's coming in every month and we know that we have the money to cover anything, and it's just been very relaxing. Right.
And we were still in that flux at this time last year.
Right.
You knew it was coming, but none of it was done.
Yeah.
So, and that was kind of the challenge last year. You had all of these big issues. You had retired, and you had to retire before these other benefits would kick in. And then what they said, you knew you would get what they said you were going to get. You just didn't know when.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was very slow acting with the federal government, and it was probably 2.5 months or better before everything fell into place. So
I see you're wearing a U.S. Army shirt. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very dedicated to the military.
Yes, you have been. Again, thank you for your service. You were in the military for quite some time. Just to remind, give us a little more background, just to remind people or new listeners that don't know who you are.
A total of 10 years I did in the military, 3 years active. The first time I was at Fort Lewis, Washington as a combat engineer, actually working side by side with the 75th Ranger Battalion out of Fort Lewis. And then after I did 3 years, got out, thought the grass was greener on the outside than it was in the military, and come back to Ohio and struggled for a long time. And then 3 years later, the military contacted me and said, "We have a shortage of nurses. We want you to become a nurse." And I had no plans of ever being a nurse. And they gave me a deal that I couldn't pass up, and went back to nursing school, and then, did 6 years reserve and a year active duty, and got activated for Desert Storm, and just enjoyed the military. I liked everything that I did.
Yeah, we've had lots of conversations about what you actually did.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of strange things between 82 to 85.
Yeah, a lot of dangerous things that you were involved. I mean, there were dangerous situations that you were involved in. I want to be clear about that.
Yeah,
you were doing dangerous things that were part of what your job was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some pretty impressive stuff that you did too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was enjoyable though. I mean, everything was, most times it was just, like going to a job or spending time in the field, training.
Yeah, sure.
So most of it was that, but there was its small little skirmishes that went on between 82 and 85. And, but other than that, it was pretty simple.
No, it wasn't. You're just being humble. I know you better than that. So, and then you came back and stayed in nursing.
Right.
And you worked for the VA for how long?
I did a total of 28 years, but I bought back 3 years of my military time to count towards retirement with the VA. So I had a total of 31 years.
Okay.
And was able to retire at age 60, and which was not as easy for most people. So it worked out well.
Well, and a lot of that, let's be honest, a lot of that had to do with that you and your wife have been very conservative people.
Sure.
And you took and saved the money.
Yeah.
We can't help. We can maybe turn the jets on, but if people don't save it, we can't help them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, where my wife was after, working at a lot of places that they didn't have good retirement, or when she left, it wasn't something that she could take out or had to stay. And so she's had to play some catch up with her side, but mine's been nice because, the VA matched, 5 to 6%, and it was kind of nice. And I had built up to about 16 to 17% of my salary going into my retirement instead of taking, 1% cost of living raise that they would give us occasionally. I would just drop it into the TSP.
So to get out at 60, was that always your aspiration?
I made that plan probably at 10 years in. That was at the point that I was going to stay there. It was a job that I very much enjoyed, and knew that I could go out. I could have went out as early as 55, but there was a penalty to that. And so I kind of made this plan to get out at 60, and I just kind of stuck to it. So,
And you made it happen.
Yeah.
Last year we talked about how your wife's still working, you're retired, and there was, I don't want to use the word conflict. I'm thinking of a different word where there was a.
Well, we had plans of retiring together.
Right.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it just didn't
Talk
work
about
out.
that for a minute.
Well, it just didn't work out that way. She didn't have enough money to do it, and with most jobs, unfortunately, they're not as lucky as we were with the Veterans Administration that we could. We had a pension, so we had our federal retirement and then our TSP, which is our, our own, like a 401k, and they give you like a stipend to get out prior to 62, a partial Social Security payment. You get that also. So everything kind of fell into place, where hers was just going to rely on Social Security and her 401ks, that she was smart enough to transfer what she had from working at other facilities, and she was able to put some away. So that helped, but it just wasn't enough until she could collect Social Security.
Right. Okay.
So
So
hopefully this year.
So, well, we have some more math to do,
Yeah.
right? No surprise working with me, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So you know me, as you know, and you're this way too, because this is what makes you a good nurse, is the data is the data.
Right.
No matter what the emotion says, if the blood work is the blood work and the numbers are the numbers, that's what you got to go by. Right.
And if the numbers don't match, then you can't do it.
Right. Right. So that's what. So how have you two adjusted to the past year?
I think that we've both been able to relax a little bit, realizing that it's enough money, because everybody thinks, okay, you make let's say you make $60,000 a year, and all of a sudden you have $30,000 a year coming in. But people fail to realize that you're not paying your retirement anymore. Money's not coming in. You're not spending as much money. You're not taking a vehicle, 25, 30 miles each way to work and paying for gas and upkeep and everything else. So even though your salary said you were making 60,000 or whatever, you're still only bringing home half of that. So you're living on 30,000. You just don't realize it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when we do retirement projections, and this is something we hear a lot of, where where our clients, once they retire, and we always, when we're planning for that, we want to be maybe more aggressive on the expenses instead of conservative.
Right.
Because if we're more aggressive on the expenses when we're projecting retirement needs and they end up being less than that, that just means everything works better.
Right. Right.
That just means our clients have longer term peace of mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the reality is you were used to that cycle of spending, the work cycle of spending.
Right.
Okay? And what it takes to go to work and everything else that it does, and maybe I'll make it up, maybe going out to dinner more because by the time you both got home from work, we just didn't want to cook, so we're going out, right? That sort of scenario. And then once you start to go through this, and like I said last year when we did this, you were in the throes of it. Now it sounds like you've settled into this, I'll call it a current new pattern,
Right.
because you're going to go through another current new pattern when your wife retires.
Right.
And there'll be another whole set of conversations and adjustments that we'll have to talk about as we go through that.
Yeah, sure will.
Yeah. So tell us about that, where you guys are in terms of what are you doing now? What have you settled into? What's giving you comfort? And what are you enjoying?
I mean, I picked up a very, very casual part-time job, 1 or 2 days a week. Sometimes not even that. I didn't retire to then pick up another job. So I do that, as a driver, just something totally different than the medical side of the house, and 1 day a week, and it kind of gets me out of the house. The winters are kind of rough because you can't go outside and do the things that I enjoy. Of course, I tinker with old cars and restoring a couple old cars right now, and it's kind of hard to work out in the garage if there's no heat. We've adjusted to where we know this is how much money's coming in. You can't really rely on saying, okay, I'll pick up some overtime to make this little extra money. But we found that we also don't waste as much money because you say, well, I want to have a little extra money to do this. So you just don't, there's no reason to go to the store. Like when you were working, you would stop at the store on the way home. You really didn't need anything, but you spent $100 because you would stop and pick up a few things, and you'd see some other things and you'd buy it. And the next thing you know, you spent $100. Well, when you're out as far as we are in the country, it's 25 miles to a store. So you don't just jump in the car and go to the store now. So we started actually not spending as much money and having money left over when the pay was coming.
So are there other things that I'm glad to hear that, because, this is more, I'm hoping this has given listeners more comfort, because that's kind of common that people spend less than they anticipate, but till they get in there and see what it really is, that's why we don't adjust it down, because they may not spend money, for instance, on groceries, but they may go do something else that they picked up a habit. I was talking to somebody, this blew my mind, and it was from somebody I never would have thought of, and they were talking about thinking about retiring and thinking about other sources of income, and they says, well, he's got a hobby. He collects things like trains, and I said, a lot? Like small, I don't know, those HO trains, is that what they are? I'm not sure.
Like a model train type system.
Yeah, and I said, well, how many of those do you have? And he looks at me and he goes, I could fill this room. It's not a big office, but it's a pretty big office, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot of trains.
I'm like, wow. Well, my only response is, well, assets come in different shapes and sizes, don't they?
That's true.
Right.
Yep.
But my point is, even though he's someone that's retired, that's where he spends his money. That's what his hobby is.
Sure.
And it's a lot of money to do all that stuff.
Right.
And his push was, I could just sell stuff if I need to. And I kind of joked and said, but you already have a room full, which tells me you're acquiring, not selling.
Right. Yeah, you're not selling. You're filling the room. Yeah, unfortunately, we're kind of the same way.
Yeah.
We both enjoy antiques, and we'll go out to antique shops and pick stuff up that we don't really have room for, but we do.
Yeah.
But we have started to realize that some of the stuff we need to sell to make room for other things. And it's kind of fun because some of the things you make money on, some things you don't, but depends on how foolish you are when you buy. But yeah, so it's fun to do some things that we might not have had as much time for because, I worked Monday through Friday. So if my wife was working a Saturday and then she worked a couple other days during the week because she's 12-hour shifts, she was home by herself during the week. And there was times I was home by myself on the weekends. So now it's kind of nice that we can do things during the week when she's off because I'm not working. So it's kind of freed up time to do some things that we never did except for the 1 day or 2 days a week that we could get together and do things because one of us wasn't working.
So theoretically, you now probably have 3 to 4 days a week together.
Sure. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how have you adjusted to that extra time together?
It's not really been a hard adjustment for me.
Okay.
I have to not forget that she's still working and she's tired, and those are her days to relax a little bit or take off, and I'm ready to go because I've had those other days off and she hasn't.
You have 6 Saturdays and 1 Sunday, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's been kind of an adjustment for me because I'm used to run. Still get up at 5 o'clock. I get up with her, and I don't lay back down. I get busy doing some things, and most times it's continuous. Well, I have to realize that she's still working 12-hour shifts, which are tough anyway, and doing a lot of physical type labor as a nurse.
Right, that's right.
And that's her days to relax, and sometimes I have to just go do something myself or go outside or do some work or just sit down with her and watch a movie instead of out running around.
Well, that's real. That's the reason I bring this up because, again, Randy, we've talked about this before, that sometimes we talked about this last year, people romanticize retirement.
Right.
And, one of the key conversations we had last year was the month leading up to it and how emotionally challenging that time can be, more so than people give it credit for.
Right.
And especially for somebody like you that was good at what you did, passionate about what you did. You had a lot of friends there.
Sure.
And the transition away from that, because one of the questions, and you kind of brought it up, so we want to talk about that a little bit more too. When you go from that sort of environment, you live in the country. We've had a crazy cold winter. Some of the challenges clients of ours that, and I'm bringing this up, telling you you're not alone.
Right.
But a lot of clients that are feeling isolated that have retired.
Yeah.
And how are you battling that isolation?
It was, this winter's been rough because, I can't go outside. I can't do some of the things that I want to do. I don't have winter hobbies like a lot of people that ski and do things like that. I don't do that. So, I started noticing being a little more lonely, because I wasn't as occupied with my time as what I was during the summer. So you just kind of adjust. You kind of force yourself to continue on your daily activities, even if it is cold outside. So it's something that you just have to adjust to because it is tough to, it's been almost a year and a half since I retired. And actually that was the first time I felt that way, although I retired in December. So I only had like 3 months of winter, where this year, it started very early and unfortunately it's been a long winter. So you start noticing that and you just have to fight it. You have to stay busy. You don't want to be sitting behind a TV and watching TV for 10 hours a day.
Right.
That's not healthy either. So,
right. Yeah, it's been a real issue for, excuse me, a lot of my clients that are in your situation. And several of them retired maybe 6 months before you. I have a couple that retired maybe 6 months before you.
Okay.
And so through your first winter, they were still in the adjustment phase. So they're still finding things. So this is the first year for many of them like you, which is that full first year into that.
First winter, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's real.
Yeah.
That isolation's real, because especially if your friends or spouse are continuing to work.
Sure.
So as much as they sit there and maybe grumble of work, by the time they go to work, they're distracted with their work. They're distracted with their coworkers, in terms of distracted from the cold, and not feeling lonely.
Yeah, they're not outside, and they're not by themselves. They're taking care of patients or whatever they're doing, and they're communicating with other people, and you're at home with nobody to communicate with.
Right.
In most cases. So yeah, it's an adjustment, but it's something that you tend to get used to.
Well, I bring it up because, having other guests, I'm bringing up the same sort of conversation that sometimes people romanticize retirement. And they, you see the pictures of the husband and wife with gray hair and tan skin on bicycles with palm trees behind them. It's one of my new favorite sayings, Randy. But the reality isn't always that way.
Right. And for a lot of people, you don't have, these couples that, they shut their house down and they go to Arizona for a month, if they're retired together. And unfortunately, I still, which I'm probably in the process of changing, I still heat my house with a wood burner. And, I learned very early in life that when you heat your home with that type of heat, you're married to a wood burner. You can't just leave.
Yeah, right, true.
You can't leave for more than about 8 to 12 hours, and because you have to put wood in the stove. You have to keep that heat going. So that makes it a little more difficult, that, you can't just walk away for a month and go on vacation like you see in the movies,
Right.
I mean, I have a couple close friends that are lucky enough to be able to do that because they have a more modern house and they heat with the conventional fuel oil or electric or whatever. And, they go places for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. But we're getting there. We're working on upgrading things to where I'm no longer married to the wood burner.
Okay.
Plus, I'm not getting any younger.
Right.
And
Sure.
it's a lot of work.
Right.
So eventually that might count. Come once my wife's off work and retired, we can go away for a week and not even think about it because the house will take care of itself.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I have a fair amount of clients that have second homes in Florida. They're all complaining how cold it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have a home down there this year because they definitely couldn't enjoy it.
Right. And I tell them I love them, but they're just not getting any sympathy from me either.
No, not when we're sitting at, single digits or, 10, 15 below zero actual temperatures. And 40 feels good.
Right.
So
it's interesting that this feedback here is interesting, but believe it or not, I gotta stop here for a break. And it's been great stuff. I got Randy Reese here with me. He's a recently retired nurse from the VA. We'll get some more information from him, but we'll be back after this break. This is Leo Daprile, and this is the Gem Young Wealthcast.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we make planning for your future simple by offering both insurance and wealth management under one roof. Our team helps protect what matters most while guiding you toward your financial goals, whether it's safeguarding your home, health, business, or planning for a work-optional lifestyle. With everything in one place, you get seamless support, personalized strategies, and peace of mind. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 today to schedule your fit meeting and experience all-in-one protection and planning.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we know insurance can feel complicated and overwhelming. That's why our team is here to listen, understand your unique situation, and provide solutions that work for you. From home and auto to life, plus a team dedicated just to commercial insurance, we help protect what matters most without the stress. Don't wait until an issue arises. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 to schedule your fit meeting and get the protection you need today.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we believe your financial goals deserve more than just a plan. They deserve a team. From planning for a work-optional lifestyle to managing risk and supporting your everyday needs. Our financial planners, paraplanners, and service team work together to build a strategy that truly fits your life. Planning for the future will help you make that confident financial decisions and achieve lasting peace of mind. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors today, 330-533-6936, to schedule your fit meeting and start building your financial future.
Now, back to the Gem Young Wealthcast, brought to you by Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors. Once again, here's Leo Daprile.
Welcome back to the Gem Young Wealthcast. This is Leo Daprile. If you're just joining the podcast, we have Randy Reese here. He's a retired nurse from the VA that's been a client of ours for a little bit of time, just under 2 years. But Randy went through the recency of retiring about a year and a half ago. He was on our show this time last year when we were talking with our clients that they're different life stages, and that's what we're doing this month, is giving you the perspectives of what people working through retirement that don't have to. We call it the work optional lifestyle. Folks that have gone through the retirement, and Randy's was recent, so we talked about his recency last year. So we wanted to have him back to say, okay, what's life like a year later? I want folks to hear and see what it's really like, because everybody in this world is dynamic. That's one of the reasons I love why I do what I do. I get to meet a lot of interesting people, but everybody's life is so intensely personal, and the way their financial plans are built are intensely personal. So there's nothing cookie cutter about what we do. And part of the objective of these shows is to show you the seemingly easy questions we try to answer and how incredibly complicated some parts of it are. For instance, last year, Randy and we spoke on the show of the challenge of him being a passionate person, loving what he does, wanted to retire at age 60, met all those objectives, retired at 60, had to say goodbye to friends, stop a career that he loved, and there was a lot of, I'll say, mixed and complicated emotions that went along with it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Would that be fair,
Sure.
Randy, to say?
Very much fair.
Okay. Not that he regrets his decision, because I'm doing this with my hands up and down. I say, the very few decisions, Randy, and you saw this 1,000 times in being a nurse, that there's very few some medical decisions as well as life decisions. Sometimes they're incredibly gray.
Right.
As much as you want them to be black and white. Some are black and white, but rarely are they black and white.
Right. Yeah, they're mixed color.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you ended up. So now that you've been in here, and we spoke about that on the earlier parts of the podcast of kind of how your biggest challenge has been what to do with this cold winter, the isolation that comes with it, managing the isolation, because you're an outdoor guy, but not a winter outdoor guy.
Right.
By the way, neither am I. So, but I want to talk about, now that you've had time to think, and we spoke before the break about little but important things, like you've always had a wood burner stove for your house.
Right.
Didn't mind the work, and this year I'm sure it was a lot of work, at least having enough wood to do all that.
Sure.
Okay? But you're saying, look, maybe I don't want that anymore because I want to be able to travel with my wife when she retires. I'm getting older, and this is becoming maybe a little more manual than my body's permitting me to be.
Right.
You said you were working kind of one day a week just to get out of the house a little bit, but on the break we're talking about maybe you might think about doing something else.
Right. Thinking about going back into the medical side of the house. Tried to get into a home health organization that helps take care of vets in their homes. I do miss the nursing part of my life. It was a big part of my life for 38 years total. And prior to that, I was an EMT and, did some other things. But, it's a part that I do miss and didn't realize I would miss it as much. Not that I would ever want to go back to a 5-day-a-week job, because that's definitely not in the cards. But I would like to do something very casual part-time, kind of like what I'm doing now, but do it in the healthcare field.
You said something to me on the break too. You said you never intend on giving up your license.
Yeah, I never will. There's a lot of people that as soon as they retire, they think, why pay that extra however much it costs every 2 years to keep your license up, your continuing education, keeping active in the field. I'm never planning on giving that up. I did that with a couple licensures through my career, one being a chemical dependency counselor, and I dropped it, which I regret. Those things aren't easy to get. And I realized that it's something that I do want to keep because I might want to do something part-time. It's just nice to be able to have those options.
So we often talk about the work optional lifestyle, and you're kind of circling back to that.
Right.
Now that you've been out of the game a year and a half, this is not uncommon, Randy, for people to go, okay, what's next for me? I'm still passionate. I still want to matter. I still want some sort of engagement, but I certainly don't want the grind.
Right. I don't want the huge commitment it takes to be that dedicated to a full-time job.
So what does that look like? And is part of the reason becoming, are you sensing, are you searching for maybe a sense of purpose?
Maybe a little bit, but more like continuing to do something that I enjoy and not with not having as much responsibility, but to also still have that a part of my life, because I look for my wife to maybe do the same, have a very casual part-time job just to keep active in the nursing world. A lot of people walk away from that because it was such a terrible experience. A lot of people they go into nursing and then they say, oh, man, I wished I would have became, truck driver or something, whatever. But I didn't experience that. My experience with nursing was very, positive, rewarding, and I enjoyed the clients because I can relate to other vets because I was a vet, and just seemed like it was
Well,
a perfect match.
let's live in the present. You are a vet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is true. Yeah.
So maybe it's more not necessarily looking for a sense of purpose, but more maybe making a difference.
Yeah, and a connection.
Okay.
Missing that connection. I still enjoy talking to people. It's became a lot more open being a vet where, you see another vet wearing an Army shirt or whatever, you go up and you talk to them. And I like that. I enjoy that, because it's like a brother and sisterhood. And I say that because the first time I was in the service, we never seen, female soldiers. We were
fair because
a combat MOS, and there wasn't women in the field doing that now. And then after 30 years, I run into a female that was a combat engineer, and there was no such thing in 1982. But it's just kind of nice you have common ground. You consider them to be your brothers and sisters, and it's nice to have something to do with them.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think where you're at, just so you know, this is pretty common for clients of ours here at Gem Young Wealth Advisors.
Right.
That it's the grind of what they had, they don't want, but they still either need a sense of purpose or they want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And they want to engage. I have a client I just spoke with, retired about 10 years ago and has been working part-time. So then they're now around 75 and says, I think I'm really ready to hang it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's okay. But for that other 10 years, they still gave back to their profession.
Right.
Because it mattered to them.
Yeah.
And they wanted something to do. And they did it in a way that how they worked. And you'll find this too, that when you're good like you are and you're working part-time, and especially with what you're doing, there's probably going to be a much higher demand for you than you think.
Right.
And they're probably going to ask you to work more than you want.
That's the biggest conflict in my mind is I have to keep myself from falling into that trap.
Right.
Because I really made a promise to myself that even though I, might do a part-time job, I'm just not going to fall into that to where, because if I wanted to work, I would have stayed where I was because I loved the people and I loved the job. So my plans is to just have that as a very casual secondary, and I just have to make sure I stand to that, because there's a lot of agencies that will not. They will try to work you full time
Oh, yeah.
because they need help.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's very casual mean to you? Have you defined that in your mind?
Max is 2 days a week.
Okay. Good.
It doesn't matter if it was 8 hours or 12 hours. That's the driving job that I do is sometimes 12 to 14 hours, but I limit that to 1 day a week. And so, of course, I want the most hours in that day if I'm going to be away.
Sure.
But with the nursing, it would, it could be less hours than that and maybe a couple days a week. So I'd still have part of the day to do whatever I needed to do or want to do.
Okay. All right. I think that's constructive.
Sure.
And I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
But I want listeners to understand that, it took you a year and a half to get here.
Yeah.
A year and a half of contemplation.
Yep.
Maybe the first 90 days just going, oh my God, what I do. Jesus is different.
Yeah.
And
I had those days.
Yeah.
Not wondering if it was a good idea.
Right. And then to start to go, whew, the shackles came off. It's a nice spring morning and I can do what I want.
Right.
And having that sense of liberation.
Yeah.
And then having the transition to, and it doesn't matter the length of the winter, and we can blame the cold, but I think it was you just getting here anyhow.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it was something that, I would lose if I gave up the nursing part. And I'm not willing to lose that completely yet, I don't think.
Yeah. I always say when you're really done, you'll know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not really done, you know that too.
Sure. Sure.
Are you finding when you have these conversations outside of your home about what you want to do you get any feedback from people like, oh, you shouldn't go back to work at all?
I have coworkers that tell me I told you so. Because they knew how dedicated I was and how much I enjoyed the job. They were like, we'll see you in a year. You'll come back part-time, or whatever the case may be, which just isn't in the books with unfortunately, the VA don't offer many part-time jobs.
Yeah, that's the challenge. You're on. That's the challenge with most employers. You're on or you're off.
Right, right.
So you have to disengage from that employer like you're doing.
Right.
And then go out there and see what the part-time market looks like.
What the part-time market looks like and see what they're willing to do.
Right. And which is completely different.
Sure.
As you're finding out, completely different.
Yep.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. I want you to answer these for people in your situation or people contemplating retirement. First of all, what surprised you the most about retirement?
Boy, what surprised me the most? I guess at first it was the worry, not knowing if it was the right thing to do. And what kind of surprised me, it just starting this winter, is the kind of the feeling of isolation, not having anybody around to talk to as much as what you were used to. You kind of it's kind of like in the honeymoon stage of marriage, everything's good, you retired, everything's great. And then all of a sudden you get to the next stage and you're like, oh yeah, I'm standing here talking to myself occasionally because there's no one at home, So that was kind of surprising to me because I wouldn't think that would happen.
That's a very interesting term, the honeymoon phase of retirement.
Sure.
Thanks. Can I steal that?
Sure.
Okay.
The excitement, the honeymoon stage.
Yeah, right. But I say it, but I don't put it in that context.
Right.
That's a visual concept people can understand.
Sure.
Okay. What tips, Randy, would you give folks that are maybe thinking they're going to retire in the next 6 months or within a year? What tips would you give them from what you experienced?
I guess don't be hung up on the numbers. Talk to somebody that knows what they're doing to make you realize that your expenses aren't as high as what you thought they were. Uh, and don't be afraid to go into retirement. If you can do it because, you hear the nightmare stories, people that retire and then die a year later. Like my mom, she retired at a younger age, like right at Social Security age, and within a year had full blown Alzheimer's and spent the next 12 years not really enjoying what you would consider retirement because she, died of Alzheimer's 12 years later. So don't be afraid to do it. It's just you just have to change. You just have to change things.
I talk about this a lot, and I use the term work optional lifestyle. And as you know, that's not a cliche, that's an aspiration for us.
Sure.
And I'm asking the question differently to clients lately. And you brought it up, and I want to just reinforce a point that you brought up when I say, if money was off the table, if you hit mission accomplished,
Right.
what are you really going to do?
What would I do?
But isn't that a challenging question?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what you went through.
Right.
Money was off the table.
Right.
You worked hard. You earned your military pension. You earned your VA pension. You were a judicious saver. So you positioned yourself where money was off the table.
Right.
And you've spent the last year and a half contemplating your life.
Right.
Fair to say?
Sure.
Okay. But prior to that year and a half, you had very specific objectives.
Yeah, I think so.
Which seeing somebody come out of the military without discipline would be odd, but because that's the discipline you have in the military.
Right, exactly.
And you were put it in your terms. You were executing your mission, your retirement mission.
Right. Yeah.
Is that a fair analogy to make?
Absolutely. Yeah, I made a decision and I followed through with it. Yeah.
Right, and did what you had to do to make that happen.
Right. Right.
And then once you got there and says, like you said, the honeymoon phase of your retirement was there.
Right.
And now you've gone through this contemplation phase.
Right.
Of because it doesn't, you're not going back to work for money. You don't need it.
No, I'm not. Just basically to enjoy what I enjoyed doing before.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's important because especially, I'm saying this to parents when you're talking to your kids too, to always examine your life instead of the money, because we build it, right? Like you did. I need to get to a certain amount of money so that I can exit when I'm 60. That was the mission.
That was the goal. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But then it didn't become that anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And then fortunately, with the way your portfolios performed, we exceeded plan expectations.
Sure.
Which made money even less relevant.
Exactly.
To that conversation.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So those are a lot of interesting transitions. So far through retirement, has there any been real great surprises for you that you didn't expect, good or bad?
Not really. And I think that's part to do with the military. I think I really planned things out specifically to what I was going to do and how I was going to do it, that there really hasn't been a lot of surprises. I was very surprised that my money did as well as it did the last year and a half, because I lived through those days when the market went crazy, and we lost a lot of money in retirement, overnight. And, I guess that would be the only surprise, was seeing that, being with somebody that you trust and knows what they're doing and is very good at it, rather than trying to manage your own money, like I had thought about trying to do with the thrift savings plan. And I there's no way I could have done what was accomplished in the last year and a half doing it on my own.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We all have our gifts, right?
Sure. And I was never trained to do that. So I was an outsider trying to work the system and not knowing what I was doing.
Randy, it's no different than when I'm watching a medical show and somebody needs a CBC stat. I don't know what that is.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't want to know what it is, right?
Yeah, there's some things you might not want to know about the healthcare world.
I say all the time, Randy, I'm not in the medical profession for a reason.
Yeah.
And God bless all of you that are in it, because you do things that I couldn't do. And that's why I always say we need everybody in the world.
Sure.
And we need every profession in the world. Yep. We need everybody's talents, whatever those talents are, right?
Right.
All right. So where you go from here is you're looking to want to maybe free yourself up from some of the daily obligations, right? And we use the wood burner just as an example of that.
Right.
But wanting to have more flexibility. You still want to be a difference maker.
Sure.
Kind of what you're thinking, right?
Right.
In the world, but maybe take some weeks out of January, February, and not be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where would you go?
I mean, like my wife made a comment one time, we were watching, TV, and they were going to be doing the New Year's celebration in Nashville. Well, we went on vacation to Nashville actually right during COVID when everything else was closed, and loved that city, enjoyed it. And she said, wouldn't that be cool to go down for New Year's to Nashville? And I had to reel her back and say, we heat our house with a wood burner, and we have dogs that we have to find some place for them to go, someone to take care of them, someone to take care of the house. We can't do that without a whole lot of prep work. And it would be nice to get to that point where we don't have to do all that prep work to be able to say, hey, let's go do this. Let's go to New York City for Christmas.
I think, and I got to close on this, but I think where you need to start is you need to talk with your financial planner, see if there's room in the budget for conventional heating.
Yeah.
All right, Randy Reese, thanks for being with me today. You're
absolutely.
awesome as always.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Leo Daprile. This is the Gem Young Wealthcast. We'll be back after this break.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we believe your financial goals deserve more than just a plan. They deserve a team. From planning for a work-optional lifestyle to managing risk and supporting your everyday needs. Our financial planners, paraplanners, and service team work together to build a strategy that truly fits your life. Planning for the future will help you make that confident financial decisions and achieve lasting peace of mind. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors today, 330-533-6936, to schedule your fit meeting and start building your financial future.
Hey, it's Medicare Jer here from Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors. Medicare can feel confusing, but I'm here to make it simple. With the right Medicare Advantage or Supplement plan, you can worry less about unexpected healthcare costs and focus more on enjoying life. Let's make sure you've got the coverage that fits your needs and gives you peace of mind. Call me, Medicare Jer, at Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors today at 330-533-7941 to schedule your appointment, and let's get your plan in place.
By calling this number, you will be speaking to a licensed insurance agent to answer your questions or provide additional information about Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug plans, or Medicare Supplement insurance plans. This is an advertisement for insurance.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we make planning for your future simple by offering both insurance and wealth management under one roof. Our team helps protect what matters most while guiding you toward your financial goals, whether it's safeguarding your home, health, business, or planning for a work-optional lifestyle. With everything in one place, you get seamless support, personalized strategies, and peace of mind. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 today to schedule your fit meeting and experience all-in-one protection and planning.
Now, back to the Gem Young Wealthcast, brought to you by Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors. Once again, here's Leo Daprile.
Welcome back to the Gem Young Wealthcast. This is Leo Daprile. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show today. I had one of my favorites, Randy Reese, on today. One of the reasons I have him on is it doesn't get any more authentic than him. And everybody that we're going to have on this month, that's exactly what you're going to get, a bunch of authenticity. You're going to get real clients of ours going through real life situations, all in different stages of what they're doing. And one of the reasons I wanted Randy back is, he's living what most of you live. He aspired for that work optional lifestyle, and him and his wife, they accomplished it. He was able to retire at age 60, which is an aspiration for many of you. But there's a lot of complications with how we live our life. And there's a lot of complications that maybe we don't think about. And one of the terms he gave me that I'm going to use is the honeymoon phase of retirement. And that's, excuse me, the first 3 to 6 months of when you're in retirement, because it feels fresh, it's new, you feel liberated, and I thought it was just an excellent analysis of what really happens in that situation. But then the reality of what living life becomes. And those are the themes that we're hearing through our clients is, what's my meaning in my life if money's off the table? And for many of you, we've had a level of success with the portfolios over the last 3 years that we're having much different conversations than we had even a year and a half ago, because we've gotten to the point where maybe we've so far exceeded it that you hear me talk about this on other podcasts about how legacy conversations are coming into play, where 5 years ago they didn't. So, but contemplating what your life really looks like, it's a deep and complicated conversation. Wanting to have purpose to your life or make a difference in the world are key components of how most of us interact. So even people that say, excuse me, they're too busy in retirement that they don't know how they work, it's probably because they found things that are giving them meaning or purpose. And that's what's important, and that's what's driving where they are in that point in their time. And I think we all get there. Some of us get there sooner rather than later. And I think, but most of us do find a way to settle into what that life looks like because they give it a lot of work and a lot of effort. They just don't sit by the sidelines and say, geez, what's going to happen next? The other thing I love about Randy, and the reason I have him on here, is he's a thinker, but he's a practical thinker. And he's an honest guy, too. If you listen to the podcast, you heard the honesty and the rawness of who he is. But he's compassionate, and there's a lot of depth to what he says, and there's a lot of depth to how he thinks. So I thought that's another reason I wanted him on. I wanted him to share that level of authenticity with you. So I hope you gain some insight to that. There was a lot of good information that I think we provided for you today. So if you didn't get a chance to fully hear it, check out the podcast. We're available on the iHeartMedia app or anywhere else that you get your podcast. And there's all of our past episodes are there as well. Well, as always, I do appreciate you listening to the show. A lot of good stuff. This is Leo Daprile. This is the Gem Young Wealthcast. And until next time.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we make planning for your future simple by offering both insurance and wealth management under one roof. Our team helps protect what matters most while guiding you toward your financial goals, whether it's safeguarding your home, health, business, or planning for a work-optional lifestyle. With everything in one place, you get seamless support, personalized strategies, and peace of mind. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 today to schedule your fit meeting and experience all-in-one protection and planning.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we know insurance can feel complicated and overwhelming. That's why our team is here to listen, understand your unique situation, and provide solutions that work for you. From home and auto to life, plus a team dedicated just to commercial insurance, we help protect what matters most without the stress. Don't wait until an issue arises. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors at 330-533-7941 to schedule your fit meeting and get the protection you need today.
At Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors, we believe your financial goals deserve more than just a plan. They deserve a team. From planning for a work-optional lifestyle to managing risk and supporting your everyday needs. Our financial planners, paraplanners, and service team work together to build a strategy that truly fits your life. Planning for the future? We'll help you make that confident financial decisions and achieve lasting peace of mind. Call Gem Young Insurance and Wealth Advisors today, 330-533-6936, to schedule your fit meeting and start building your financial future.
Join me every week where we talk anything and everything about your money. Have a topic you want to hear more about? Email Katie, that's Kayti, at gemyoung.com. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, and the iHeartRadio apps. Until next time, this is Leo Daprile.